My name is Sophia Reynolds. I'm 32. Last Thanksgiving at 6:47 p.m., I was standing at my Aunt Clara's dining room table with 32 relatives watching while my father slammed his hand on the mahogany surface hard enough to make the china rattle and said, "Our daughter Sophia is a thief, and we have proof." My mother stood beside him, her hand pressed to her chest like she was the victim. "We didn't want to do this here, Clara, but she's forced our hand. She won't admit what she's done." I was holding a dinner roll, I remember that. The butter was melting through the napkin in my other hand. My cousin's 6-year-old daughter was staring at me from across the table, her mouth open. "Dad," I said. My voice came out steady. I'd had practice. "We can talk about this later." "No," he cut me off. "Everyone here needs to know what kind of person you really are. You stole from your own grandfather's estate, $350,000, while he was barely cold in the ground." The room went silent. Someone's fork clinked against a plate. I could hear the football game playing in the living room, announcers talking about a fumble. My brother Ethan was sitting 3 chairs down. He wouldn't look at me. He'd been avoiding my eyes for 8 months. "That's not true," I said. "Then where did the money go?" My father pulled a folded document from his jacket pocket. "This is a court summons, Sophia. You're being charged with elder fraud and theft. The hearing is December 10th. He held it up so everyone could see the official-looking letterhead. "Unless you confess right now and sign over your claim to the estate, I'm taking you to court." My Aunt Clara stood up. "Victor, this is Thanksgiving. She's the one who ruined it," my mother said. Her voice had that wounded quality she'd perfected. "We've tried everything, Clara. We've begged her to do the right thing, but she just keeps lying." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now, and what time is it there. I didn't sign anything that night. I set down the dinner roll, picked up my coat from the hall closet, and left through the front door while my father was still talking. I heard him say something about me running because I was guilty. I heard my mother crying. I drove home in silence. The radio stayed off. I lived in a small apartment in Asheville, 43 miles from my parents' house in Brevard, 43 miles from the family home where I'd grown up, 43 miles from the place I'd stopped belonging the day my grandfather died. Let me take you back 3 years to the last real conversation I had with Grandpa Harlan. It was late August, the kind of humid North Carolina evening where the air sits on your chest. I'd driven to his house after a 12-hour shift at the county hospital. I'm a registered nurse, had been for 7 years by then, and I was still wearing my scrubs. He was sitting on the porch swing, drinking sweet tea from a mason jar with a paper towel wrapped around the condensation. "Little Beetle," he said when I came up the steps. That was his name for me. I'd been obsessed with ladybugs as a kid. "You look about half dead." "Long shift," I said. I sat down next to him. The swing creaked. "Had a patient code twice. We got her back both times. That's my girl." He poured me tea from the pitcher he kept out there. "Saving lives before dinner." We sat there for maybe 20 minutes, not talking much, just the swing moving, the crickets starting their evening song. Then he said, "I need to tell you something." I turned to look at him. He was 81, thin in the way old men get, but his eyes were still sharp. "I'm dividing everything equally," he said. "You, Ethan, and your cousins Rachel and Daniel. 4 ways. The house, the savings, all of it. I've written it down proper. Had it witnessed." "Grandpa, your father's going to have a problem with it," he continued. "He thinks he should get the house because he's the oldest son. But this is my house, my money, and I know exactly what he'd do with it if I gave it all to him." He looked at me directly. "Your father's been in debt since before you were born, Sophia. He hides it well. But I know. I've been bailing him out for 30 years. It stops when I'm gone." "Why are you telling me this?" Because you're the honest one, he said. And when the time comes, you're going to need to remember that I told you this. You're going to need to remember that I chose this, not him. That was the last real conversation we had. 6 weeks later, he had a stroke. He died in the hospital where I worked, 3 floors above the ICU where I normally pulled shifts. I wasn't there when it happened. I was on my day off getting groceries. The funeral was on a Thursday, September 24th. The church was full. Grandpa Harlan had lived in Brevard his whole life, knew everyone. My father gave the eulogy. He cried. He talked about what a great man his father had been, how generous, how kind. I sat in the third row and stared at the mahogany casket and tried to remember the sound of the porch swing. The first betrayal came 6 days later. I was at work, middle of a night shift. It was 2:34 a.m. I remember because I just finished charting vitals for a post-op patient when my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Your father and I need to see you tomorrow. 10 a.m. at the house, don't be late. I drove there after my shift ended. I was still in my scrubs. I hadn't slept. They were sitting in the living room, both of them. Ethan was there too, standing by the window. The September light was coming through the curtains at a sharp angle. Sit down, Sophia, my father said. I sat. He slid a folder across the coffee table toward me. Your grandfather's estate has been settled. This is your copy of the will. I opened it. My hands were shaking. I'd been awake for 19 hours straight, but I could read enough to see what it said. Everything to Victor Reynolds. The house, the savings accounts, all of it. This is wrong, I said. Excuse me? Grandpa told me he was dividing everything 4 ways: me, Ethan, Rachel, and Daniel. My father's expression didn't change. I don't know what you think you heard, but this is the legal will, filed with the probate court. Your grandfather left everything to me. He wouldn't do that. Are you calling me a liar? His voice went cold. That tone I'd known since childhood, the one that meant, stop talking. I'm saying there's been a mistake. My mother spoke up then. Sophia, honey, I know you're disappointed, but you need to accept this. Your grandfather made his choice. Let me see the original, I said. You're looking at it. The one he signed, the handwritten one. He told me he had it witnessed. My father stood up. There is no handwritten will. This is the official document. If you have a problem with it, take it up with the probate court. But I'm warning you right now. If you try to contest this, you'll lose, and you'll embarrass this family. I looked at Ethan. He was staring at the floor. Ethan, I said. You were there. You heard him talk about dividing it. My brother didn't look up. I don't remember that, Soph. Something broke in my chest right then. Not loudly, just a small crack, like ice starting to split. I left without another word. Drove home. Called my cousin Rachel. She said she'd received the same notice, everything to my father. She thought it was strange but didn't want to cause trouble. Maybe Grandpa changed his mind, she said. I called Daniel. Same story. I called Aunt Evelyn, Grandpa's younger sister. She lived in Tennessee, hadn't made it to the funeral because of her hip surgery. That doesn't sound like Harlan, she said. But sweetheart, I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't there. 3 weeks later, the rumors started. I found out from a patient, Mrs. Chen, a regular at the county hospital. She was in for her monthly diabetes check, and when I came in to take her vitals, she gave me this look, sympathetic, pitying. I heard about your family trouble, she said. I stopped mid-reach for the blood pressure cuff. I'm sorry? With your grandfather's money. My daughter goes to church with your mother. She said there was some question about missing funds. My face burned. What? I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, Mrs. Chen said quickly. But people are talking. They're saying you might have taken money before he died, that you had access to his accounts because you were his nurse. I'm not his nurse, I work in acute care, and I never touched his money. But she'd already said it. People are talking. I finished her vitals on autopilot. When I left the room, I went straight to the staff bathroom and locked myself in. I stood there looking at my reflection in the mirror above the sink. My eyes were red. I'd picked up an extra shift that week. I'd been working 56 hours. I was tired. And someone was spreading lies about me. I pulled up my phone and texted my father. "Are you telling people I stole from Grandpa?" His response came immediately. "If you didn't steal anything, why are you so defensive?" That was it. That was all he said. Over the next month, it got worse. I'd go to the grocery store and former neighbors would avoid eye contact. I went to my dentist appointment and the receptionist was suddenly cold. I showed up for Ethan's birthday dinner at my parents' house because I was stupid enough to think we could still be a family, and my father's friend Bob was there. Bob pulled me aside by the kitchen and said, "I heard you're going through some things. If you need help, there are programs for people with addiction issues." I'm not addicted to anything. Gambling, maybe? That's where that kind of money usually goes. I left before dessert. The worst part was my bank account. I had $1,847 in savings. That was it. I was making $52,000 a year as a nurse, paying $1,100 a month in rent, $320 for my car payment, $180 for insurance, $400 for student loans from nursing school. I was living paycheck to paycheck, picking up extra shifts whenever I could. If I'd stolen $350,000, where the hell was it? But no one asked that question. They just assumed. 6 months after Grandpa died, I was working a Saturday shift in the ER. It was March, still cold, flu season in full swing. We'd had 3 ambulances in the past hour. I was running between rooms, starting IVs, charting meds, trying to keep up. My father walked in at 4:17 p.m. He wasn't sick. He wasn't injured. He walked right up to the nurse's station where I was standing with Dr. Marcus Chen, reviewing a patient's blood work. "Sophia," he said, "we need to talk." "Dad, I'm working. This can't wait." He looked at Dr. Chen. "Do you know my daughter's been stealing from the family?" Dr. Chen's eyebrows went up. "Excuse me?" "Don't," I said. My voice was quiet. "Don't do this here." "She took hundreds of thousands of dollars from her dying grandfather," my father continued, like I hadn't spoken. "She won't admit it, won't return it. I've tried to handle this privately, but she's left me no choice." 2 other nurses had stopped working. They were watching. "Sir," Dr. Chen said carefully, "this isn't the place. I just want people to know what kind of person they're working with." My father looked at me. "You had one chance to make this right, Sophia. You chose not to take it." He turned and walked out. I stood there. My hands weren't shaking. My voice didn't crack. I just stood there, holding a patient chart, while my colleagues stared at me. Dr. Chen touched my shoulder. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. I meant it. Something had clicked. Something had hardened. I wasn't going to defend myself anymore. I was going to prove it. That night, I went home and pulled out every document I had from Grandpa's estate. The official will my father had given me. The notice from the probate court. I'd kept everything. I started going through my grandfather's old papers, the ones he'd given me years ago. Birthday cards, letters he'd written when I was in nursing school. And there, in an envelope at the bottom of a box I'd packed away, I found something. A photocopy of a handwritten will, dated 2 years before he died. In his handwriting, shaky but clear. "I leave my estate to be divided equally among my 4 grandchildren, Sophia Reynolds, Ethan Reynolds, Rachel Morrison, and Daniel Morrison." It wasn't the original, but it was proof that he'd intended to divide it. I called a lawyer the next morning, a woman named Patricia Vance who'd helped a friend with an estate dispute. I explained everything. "Do you have the original will?" she asked. "No, just this photocopy." "That's not enough to contest probate. You need the original document or you need proof of fraud. How do I get that? You'd need a handwriting expert to examine the will your father filed. You'd need to prove forgery, and that costs money. How much? Minimum $15,000 for a forensic analysis and legal fees to reopen probate, possibly more. I had $1,847 in my bank account. I thanked her and hung up. 2 months later, my father called me. It was a Saturday morning, May 15th. I was off work, doing laundry in my apartment. "I want to make you an offer," he said. No greeting. "I'll give you $30,000 from the estate if you sign a document saying you have no claim to anything else. No house, no savings, nothing. Just $30,000 and we're done." "That's not fair." "It's more than fair. You're not entitled to anything, but I'm willing to be generous. Grandpa wanted it divided equally. Sign the paper or take nothing. Those are your options. You have until June 1st. He hung up. I sat on my apartment floor with a basket of warm laundry and tried to do the math. $30,000 would pay off my student loans, would give me a buffer, would let me stop working doubles every week. But it wasn't mine. It was a bribe to shut up. I didn't sign. On June 3rd, I got a call from the county hospital HR department. "We've received a complaint about you accessing patient financial records inappropriately." "What? I've never—" "The complaint alleges you've been using your hospital access to view your grandfather's old billing records. Is that true?" "No. I look at my assigned patient's charts. That's it. We'll need to investigate. You're suspended pending review." I was suspended for 3 weeks. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. But the damage was done. Everyone at work knew. Everyone was talking. When I came back, I requested a transfer to night shift. Fewer people, less gossip. I worked midnight to noon, 4 days a week. I stopped going to family events, stopped answering my mother's calls. My brother texted me once, "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't respond. Then, 8 months after Grandpa died, something strange happened. I came home from a shift at 12:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. There was a voicemail on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it. I got spam calls constantly, but something made me listen. "Hello, this message is for Sophia Reynolds. My name is Gerald Hutchins. I'm an attorney in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm calling regarding your grandfather, Harlan Reynolds. I have some documents he left with me before his death. Please call me back at this number. It's important." My hands went cold. I called back immediately, got his assistant. She scheduled an appointment for Friday. I drove to Knoxville after my Thursday night shift. 3 hours. I didn't sleep. I pulled into the parking lot of a small law office on Cumberland Avenue at 9:47 a.m., still in my scrubs, running on gas station coffee and adrenaline. Gerald Hutchins was in his 70s. White hair, kind eyes, a wooden desk covered in folders. "Miss Reynolds," he said, "thank you for coming. I'm sorry for your loss." "You knew my grandfather?" "I did. He contacted me 2 years ago. Said he had a complicated family situation and needed to prepare for it." He pulled out a folder. "Your grandfather was a careful man. He knew your father would challenge his will, so he took precautions." He opened the folder. Inside was a handwritten will. Original. Dated 18 months before Grandpa died. Signed and witnessed. "I, Harlan James Reynolds, being of sound mind, leave my estate to be divided equally among my 4 grandchildren." My eyes blurred. "This is the original?" I whispered. "Yes. Your grandfather gave me explicit instructions. He said wait until Victor files his version. Wait until he thinks he's won. Then contact Sophia. She'll know what to do with it." "Why me?" "He said you were the only one brave enough to fight." Mr. Hutchins slid an envelope across the desk. "He left this for you as well." My name was on the front in Grandpa's handwriting. "For Little Beetle." I opened it with shaking hands. The letter inside was 2 pages, written in blue ink. "Dear Sophia, If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father is already doing exactly what I knew he'd do. I'm sorry I couldn't stop this while I was alive. I tried talking to him, I tried reasoning. But your father doesn't hear reason, he only hears documents. Do you remember that summer when you were 9 and you found that injured ladybug on the porch? You kept it in a jar with leaves and drops of honey water. You checked on it every hour. Your mother told you to throw it away, that it was going to die anyway. But you didn't listen. You took care of it for 3 days until it could fly again. I told you then, you have a healer's heart, little beetle. I meant it. The will in this envelope is the real one. Witnessed by my neighbors, Bill and Janet Morrison, on March 3rd. I divided everything equally because you all deserve it. Your father will tell you I changed my mind. He'll tell you I chose him. He's lying. Inside this folder, you'll also find copies of my bank statements from the last 2 years, showing the accounts your father shouldn't have had access to. A copy of the will he'll file. I know because he tried to get me to sign it while I was sick. I refused, but I kept the copy. Affidavits from Bill and Janet confirming they witnessed my signature. Letters I wrote to you over the years that your father intercepted. Your Aunt Evelyn has the originals. I sent them to her for safekeeping. Mr. Hutchins will know what to do legally. But I'm asking you something harder. Don't do this out of anger. Do it because it's right. Do it because you deserve the truth. And so do Rachel and Daniel and even Ethan, if he'll listen. You are not a thief. You are not a liar. You are the girl who saved the ladybug when everyone else said to give up. I'm proud of you. I always have been. All my love, your Grandpa Harlan. P.S. There's one more thing. I set aside $50,000 in a separate account in your name. For nursing school loans, or a down payment, or whatever you need. Your father doesn't know about it. Account number below. I read it 3 times sitting in that office. Mr. Hutchins waited patiently. When I finally looked up, I said, "What do I do now?" We file a motion to reopen probate. We submit the original will and all supporting evidence. We request a forensic analysis of the will your father filed. And we wait for the court to decide. How long? Could be months. Could be a year. And if he finds out I'm doing this before then he'll fight harder. Mr. Hutchins folded his hands. Your grandfather anticipated that too. He suggested you wait for the right moment. A moment when your father's guard is down, when he's confident he's won. I thought about Thanksgiving, about my entire family gathered in one place, about my father's smug certainty. I know the moment, I said. I drove home with the folder locked in my glove compartment. That night, I opened the bank account Grandpa had set up. $50,000. Untouched. I sat on my couch and cried for 20 minutes straight. The next day, I met with Mr. Hutchins again. We filed the motion, quietly, under seal, so my father wouldn't get notice until the court had reviewed everything. I went back to work, kept my head down, picked up my shifts. When my mother called in September to invite me to Thanksgiving at Aunt Clara's, I said yes. "Oh, Sophia, I'm so glad," she said. "We've missed you. Your father has too, even if he doesn't say it." "I've missed everyone too," I said, and I meant it. I missed the family I thought I had. The court forensic analysis came back in October. The will my father had filed had a forged signature. The handwriting expert confirmed it. Grandpa's signature had been traced from another document, probably a birthday card or letter, and placed on a falsified will. My father had committed fraud. Mr. Hutchins called me on November 18th. "The court is reopening probate. Your father will be served papers next week, but Sophia, there's something else." "What?" "Your brother contacted me, Ethan. He said he has evidence. A recording." My heart stopped. "Of what?" "Of your father admitting to the forgery. Apparently, Ethan recorded a conversation between your parents 2 months after your grandfather died. He's willing to testify." "Why now?" "He said he couldn't live with the guilt anymore." Thanksgiving was 6 days away. I called Ethan that night. He answered on the fourth ring. "Soph," he said. His voice was rough. "I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Why didn't you tell me?" I was scared. Dad said if I helped you, he'd cut me off completely. I just got the job at the firm. I couldn't afford to lose his connections. But I can't. I can't keep doing this. I recorded him, Sophia. He admitted everything. He said Grandpa was too senile to know what he was signing, that he fixed the will to what it should have been. He said you'd never be able to prove anything. Send me the recording. I already gave it to your lawyer. But Soph? Dad doesn't know I did this. He's going to lose his mind. Good, I said. I hung up. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and clear. Aunt Clara's house was in Black Mountain, a 40-minute drive from my apartment. I got there at 5:30 p.m. just as the sun was setting. Cars lined the street, my parents' Lexus, my cousin's minivans, Uncle Joe's truck. I parked at the end of the block. In my purse was a manila envelope. Inside, copies of Grandpa's real will, the forensic report, bank statements showing my father had withdrawn $350,000 after Grandpa's death, and a flash drive with Ethan's recording. I walked up the driveway. Through the windows, I could see everyone gathering. Kids running around, adults setting tables, someone carving the turkey. Normal. Like we were still a real family. Aunt Clara answered the door. "Sophia, oh honey, come in, you look froze." The house smelled like sage and butter. The dining room had 2 tables pushed together, covered in white tablecloths, set for 32 people. I counted. My parents were near the fireplace. My father was talking to Uncle Joe about something. My mother was laughing with Aunt Linda. They both looked relaxed, happy. I set my coat on the rack and my purse on the hall table. Ethan was in the kitchen. He saw me and went pale. I gave him a small nod. He nodded back. Dinner was at 6:30. We all sat. I was placed at the far end, between Cousin Rachel and her husband Tom. My parents were at the head, right next to Aunt Clara. We said grace, started passing dishes. Turkey, stuffing, sweet potato casserole, green beans. I put a dinner roll on my plate, watched butter melt through the napkin. My father stood up at 6:47 p.m. "Before we eat," he said, "I have something I need to say." The room quieted. "This isn't easy for me," he continued, "but as the head of this family, I have a responsibility to address difficult truths." My mother put her hand on his arm, supportive, united. "My daughter Sophia," he said, looking directly at me, "has been spreading lies about her grandfather's estate for over a year. She's accused me of fraud, of theft, of things I would never do." Rachel's fork clinked against her plate. "I've tried to be patient," my father said. "I've tried to be understanding. But tonight, I want everyone here to know the truth." He pulled the folded document from his jacket, the fake court summons he'd threatened me with before. Sophia stole $350,000 from her grandfather's accounts before he died. She's being charged with elder fraud. This is the court summons. Someone gasped. I think it was Aunt Linda. "She won't confess," my mother added, her voice breaking. "We've begged her, but she just keeps lying." My father looked around the room. "I wanted to keep this private, but she's forced my hand by refusing to make this right." I picked up my purse from the hall table, walked back to the dining room, set the manila envelope on the table in front of me. "You're right, Dad," I said. My voice was steady, calm. "We should talk about the truth." His eyes flicked to the envelope. "Sophia, if you're going to cause a scene—" "I'm not causing anything. I'm just going to read a letter." I pulled out Grandpa's letter. "This is from Grandpa Harlan. He gave it to his attorney in Tennessee 2 years before he died, along with his real will." The room went silent. "The real will," I continued, "divided his estate equally among 4 grandchildren, me, Ethan, Rachel, and Daniel. Not everything to you, Dad. Grandpa witnessed it, signed it, had it notarized." My father's face went red. "That's a lie." The will you filed with probate court has a forged signature. I pulled out the forensic report. This is from Dr. Raymond Walsh, certified forensic document examiner. He analyzed both wills. The signature on your version was traced from another document, probably one of Grandpa's birthday cards. My mother's hand dropped from my father's arm. You withdrew $350,000 from Grandpa's estate accounts, I said. Here are the bank statements. Your name on every withdrawal slip. You told the bank you were the executor. You weren't. Not yet. Grandpa was barely in the ground. Uncle Joe stood up slightly, looking at the documents. You filed a falsified probate document, I continued. You spread rumors that I was a thief. You came to my workplace and humiliated me in front of my colleagues. You offered me $30,000 to shut up and go away. Sophia, my father said. His voice had that warning tone. You don't know what you're talking about. And then, I said, you tried to intimidate me at last year's Thanksgiving with a fake court summons. I picked up the document he'd just shown everyone. This isn't real, by the way. I checked with the courthouse. No case filed. No charges. Just a piece of paper. You printed to scare me. I pulled out the flash drive. But the most interesting thing is this, a recording from October 3 years ago. Ethan made it. Would you like me to play it? Ethan stood up. His face was white. I'll play it. He took the flash drive, plugged it into his phone, set it on speaker. My father's voice came through clearly. Told you, Margaret. The old man was too confused to know what he was signing. I just helped him write what he really wanted. Everything to me. Sophia's too busy playing nurse to notice, and even if she does, she can't prove anything. I have the probate court, I have the accounts. She has nothing. My mother's voice. What if she fights it? My father. She won't. And if she tries, I'll bury her. I'll make sure everyone knows she's unstable, a liar. Who's going to believe her? The recording ended. The room was completely silent. 32 people. No one moved. My father's face had gone from red to gray. That was taken out of context. There's more, Ethan said quietly. 20 minutes of it. All the same. My mother was crying. Real tears this time, not the performed kind. Victor, what did you do? I was protecting our family, my father said. He was looking around the room, desperate. The money would have been wasted, divided 4 ways. I used it to pay off debts, to invest, to renovate your house, I said. New kitchen, new roof, country club membership. Uncle Joe sat down heavily. Jesus, Victor. Aunt Clara's hand was pressed to her mouth. I want everyone to understand something, I said. I looked around the table. I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm here because Grandpa asked me to tell the truth. He knew this would happen. He planned for it. He left me this letter because he knew Dad would do exactly this. I held up the letter. He called me Little Beetle. That was his name for me, and he told me, don't do this out of anger. Do it because it's right. My voice cracked slightly, just slightly. So I'm doing it because it's right. The probate court has reopened the case. The forensic evidence has been submitted. The real will has been filed. Dad will have the opportunity to explain himself to a judge. I looked at my father. I would have split the money with you, if you'd just asked. If you'd just been honest. But you weren't interested in fair. You wanted all of it. And you were willing to destroy me to get it. I picked up my coat from the chair. Rachel, Daniel, you're both listed in Grandpa's real will. Mr. Gerald Hutchins in Knoxville has your copies. I've already contacted him on your behalf. Rachel was crying. Daniel just stared. I looked at Ethan. Thank you for doing the right thing. He nodded. His eyes were wet. I walked to the door. Behind me, the room erupted. Voices overlapping. Uncle Joe saying, I can't believe. Aunt Clara saying, you need to leave, Victor. My mother sobbing. My father's voice, loud and desperate. She's manipulated all of you. Can't you see? She's always been jealous, always wanted. Stop. That was Cousin Daniel. Quiet Daniel who never spoke up. Just stop, Uncle Victor. We all heard the recording. We saw the documents. Just stop. I left before I could hear my father's response. I drove home in silence, pulled into my apartment complex at 8:03 p.m., sat in my car for 15 minutes with the engine off, watching my breath fog the windows. Then I went inside, made tea, sat on my couch, and breathed. 3 days later, my father's lawyer called Mr. Hutchins to negotiate a settlement. My father wanted to avoid criminal charges. The probate court agreed to restitution. The estate would be divided per Grandpa's real will. My father would return the $350,000 he'd withdrawn, and he'd pay legal fees for all parties. In exchange, we wouldn't pursue fraud charges. I agreed. Not because I forgave him, not because I wanted to protect him, but because Grandpa had written in his letter, "Do it because it's right." Punishment wasn't my job. Truth was. 6 months later, I moved to a small house in Asheville. 3 bedrooms, a porch with a swing, a yard where I could plant things. I paid cash. My portion of the estate, plus the $50,000 Grandpa had set aside, was enough. I framed my nursing license in the hallway, kept my grandfather's letter in a drawer by my bed, planted a ladybug garden in the backyard, marigolds, fennel, dill, the kind of flowers that attract them. Ethan came to visit in July. We sat on the porch swing, drinking sweet tea from mason jars. He apologized again. I told him I understood. Fear makes people do things they regret. "Do you think you'll ever talk to them again?" he asked. "Mom and Dad? I don't know," I said. "Maybe someday, but not until they admit what they did. Really admit it." He nodded. "Mom's left him. Moved in with Aunt Clara. She said she can't be married to someone who'd do that to his own daughter." I didn't respond. That was between them. Rachel and Daniel used their portions to pay off debt, start college funds for their kids. We talked occasionally, not often. But when we did, it was honest. I still work at the county hospital, still pull night shifts, still save lives before dinner. But now I do it without shame, without that weight of being called a thief every time I walked into a room. The truth doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like relief. If you're watching this, and someone in your life is trying to rewrite history, trying to make you doubt what you know is true, I want you to type something in the comments. If you walked away from a relationship to protect your truth, type, "I walked away." If you stayed and fought for your boundaries with evidence and patience, type, "I stayed and fought." Both are brave, both are valid. And if this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Happy Thanksgiving, wherever you are. I'm sitting on my porch now. November evening, cool but not cold. The ladybugs are settling into the garden for winter. I can see them on the fennel stalks, little red dots against the green. Grandpa was right. I do have a healer's heart. But I learned something he didn't teach me. Sometimes healing yourself means walking away from the people who keep breaking you. And sometimes it means standing in front of 32 relatives on Thanksgiving and telling the truth. Even when your hands are shaking and you're just holding a dinner roll with butter melting through the napkin, I don't regret it. Not for a second.